Yesterday in literacy, we were looking at different ways to make our writing flow better. And of course, that is called cohesion. And we looked at using adverbials, we looked at using relative pronouns, and we looked at using expanded noun phrases. If you have had that work returned to you and you need to do a little bit more on it, then please complete that first before you move on to this, because we're going to apply our learning today. So if you have any corrections from yesterday, do complete those first, and I will be monitoring to see who has done that. So I'm going to apply my knowledge now, and first of all I've got a passage which I need to read very carefully so I understand what's going on. The bus screeched to a halt. Something was wrong. Looking out of the window, Connor could see that they hadn't reached their final destination yet. He should have been looking at the marvellous sight of a theme park. Instead, he was staring at an overgrown hedgerow at the side of a busy road. "Don't panic, children," soothed the calming voice of Mrs. Peters. "It seems that the engine has overheated. Unfortunately, we will have to get off the coach whilst we wait for help to arrive. Stick with your partners and follow me, please." Everyone groaned as they climbed out of their seats. They followed Mrs. Peters off the coach and through a gap in the hedge. Connor found himself standing in a large, flat cornfield with a weird-looking scarecrow in the middle. "You'll be quite safe here, children. Don't go far, though," she warned. So I've read the passage carefully. I understand what it's about, and now I need to read my instructions carefully. Write an alternative expanded noun phrase for paragraph 3. Well, an alternative expanded noun phrase means just a different one. It tells me in paragraph 3. Some of you yesterday were not reading these instructions carefully enough and were giving me all sorts of answers from different paragraphs. You need to read carefully and take your time and do your best with this. So I'm looking at paragraph 3, which in this case is the bottom one. So I need to find out what the expanded noun phrase is. So I'm going to look at the paragraph again. Everyone groaned as they climbed out of their seats. They followed Mrs. Peters off the coach and through a gap in the hedge. Connor found himself standing in a large, flat cornfield with a weird-looking scarecrow in the middle. "You'll be quite safe here, children. Don't go far, though," she warned. Well, I wonder if you've spotted which is the expanded noun phrase. Where do I have the name of a thing which has some adjectives attached to it to give us some description about the thing? Well, the one I have spotted here is this one here. It's a large, flat cornfield with a weird-looking scarecrow in the middle. So I know it's a large, flat cornfield with a weird-looking scarecrow. So I've got lots of description there to tell me something about this field. So that is the expanded noun phrase. What I'd like you to do now is think, how could you write a different expanded noun phrase about that location? Is it going to be a large, flat cornfield with a weird-looking scarecrow? Or is it going to be something else? Pause this video and have a think about what expanded noun phrase you would put in place of that one. Okay, so I wonder what you came up with. Let's have a look at the one that's suggested on this presentation. Oh, now this one says a small hilly potato field with a jolly looking scarecrow. Okay, so can you see what's happened there? It's still a field and it's still a scarecrow. We've just changed the description of the field from large flat cornfield to small hilly potato field, and we've changed the description of the weird looking scarecrow to a jolly looking scarecrow. We've kept the nouns, we've just changed the adjectives that describe it. Okay, let's have a look at another example. Okay, it's the same passage. I might want to read it again just to make sure that I remember it and I've fully understood it. Write a paragraph to continue the story using a relative clause and a fronted adverbial. Okay, well, I'm very familiar with fronted adverbials because I know I've done those in my learning before. And if I have a look, there is a fronted adverbial in the passage. I wonder if you can spot it. Pause the video and see if you can spot the fronted adverbial. Okay, well, you might have suggested here in the first paragraph, looking out of the window, comma. Connor could see they hadn't reached their final destination. You might have said, instead, comma. You might have said, unfortunately, comma. Okay, fronted adverbials. A relative clause, of course, is a comma who, comma which, comma where, comma when. Okay, something like that. So, they've got out of the bus. They're standing next to this field. There's a weird scarecrow there. I wonder if you can write some sentences now which use a relative clause and a fronted adverbial. Okay, let's have a look at a suggestion on here before I ask you to do that. Okay, so for example, we've got Connor, who was never any good at following orders, decided to explore. There we've got a relative clause. After convincing his partner to join him, the two of them headed across the field and towards the scarecrow. And there we have got the fronted adverbial, after convincing his partner to join him, comma. And these are things that we have done in class before. Both of those things, we have learnt them before, so you should be very good at this. So, can you pause this video and write yourself a new paragraph which uses a relative clause and a fronted adverbial? Okay, do send me a photograph of that example that you've just written so I can have a look at it. I'm sure it will be very good. Okay, let's have a look at our next problem. Scarlett has written the sentence below to add to paragraph 2. The driver, who looked too young to have passed his driving test, was attempting to look at the engine. Is her sentence correct? Convince me. Well, it reads okay. However, when I look at it, I can see a comma who there, so I can see a relative clause. Now, I know that relative clauses come inside a pair of commas. The driver, who looked too young to have passed his driving test, was attempting to look at the engine. I don't see a second comma, so I don't think Scarlett's sentence is correct. And in order to convince this person, I have to say where the comma should be. Now, the two commas, the pair of commas, should be at the beginning and end of the extra bit of information, the relative clause that is dropped into the sentence. If I ignored that relative clause, the rest of the sentence would make sense all by itself. And if I look carefully here, the extra information is who looked too young to have passed his driving test. If I put a comma after test, the rest of the sentence should make sense. Let's see. The driver was attempting to look at the engine. That makes sense. So Scarlett has missed out a comma after test. There we go. She's incorrect because she needs to include a comma after the word test and at the end of the relative clause. So we were right there. Okay, those are the types of questions you're going to come across on today's sheet. Remember, it's very important that you read the question carefully so you know what to do, and you read the passage very carefully.